David Clarkson, Director of Office Management and Budget. So tonight is the public budget town hall meeting to go over the highlights of the mayor's proposed budget. And Mr. John Sardui will take us through the presentation, go through the presentation, point out the highlights, key dates towards our budget meeting where the budget will be proposed to the board next month. And then we'll do questions and answers. We have quite a few people on Zoom right now. There's how many people? Over 20?
55 now.
55? Wow.
Hi.
So I guess we'll jump right into it unless the mayor wants to say a few.
Sure, the vice chair would as well. Thank you very much, David. Well, welcome everybody. We are here surrounded by, first of all, a great library. I happen to really love this library. A lot of good things happen here, including voting. And when you come to vote here, you get to dance and sing and have good food. Very, very welcome right here at North Cape Regional. I also love this library because it's in Commission District 1, where our Vice Chairman, Oliver Gilbert, serves. So he's going to get a chance to say hello to all of you. This is it the third or the fourth night of budget workshop? Third night. We do 2 a night, and tomorrow we have 2 more in the south end of the county. So this has been extremely important to me as a new mayor, 9 months into it, because I spent many, many years in the audience. Many, many years listening, learning, advocating for the things that I thought were important. And as mayor, I've continued that participation by encouraging people like themselves. We did a round of budget workshops in February that had never been done before, so an extra round. And we also had our Thrive 305 public participation extravaganza with over 1 million responses to questions. 27,000 people completed the full survey. As well, we had meetings, virtual and in person, with hundreds more participating. So it's been very exciting, and you'll see in the budget presentation that so many of the ideas that the public presented have become part of our budget. So please know that we take participation very, very seriously. And after all, this is your money. This is your county. We are here to serve you. You're the customers. And so we're very, very pleased for those who showed up, either in person or virtually, which is a great service that we can now do hybrids. So I'm not going to take a lot of time because you're going to get all the details, and then we want to hear from you. But know, for those of you from the public who are here, you are surrounded by dedicated public servants, county employees across the county departments here to answer your questions. And so we will identify them to you at some point. So if you have follow-up questions after as well, you can engage. And just to show you, if you could please, county employees, if you would stand, please, to be recognized. Okay. Very impressive showing here. Okay, thank you, everybody. Let's give them a round. Okay, so just to say, for those of you who come from the public, you're very special. You see, we're all here for you and on the line as well. So we're going to, what's the word called? We're going to navigate the questions. That's not the right word.
Facilitate.
Well, we're going to start with a uplifting and I'm sure humorous presentation from our vice chair. Thank you very much.
All right. Yo, give me a round of applause. County Commission, this one, Vice Chairman of the Board of County Commission. And this is important. This is important because it's a budget. And a lot of times you'll see people they'll propose ordinances and resolutions. Listen, the greatest expression of your values in any government, in any community, is your budget. How do you spend your money? Do you spend your money to help people? Do you spend your money to improve their quality of life? How do you spend your money? This process right here, and the mayor is undertaking an extraordinary outreach to actually get input. And that input is important because ultimately We want to have a budget that reflects who we are. And I think that we have an opportunity to do that. So I appreciate all of you all being here. I appreciate the mayor being here. I'm triple and double booked my chief of staff. The staff will be hanging out towards the end. But listen, give us your input. Give us your ideas. And that's not to say that we can do everything. Sometimes elected officials will tell you that you can do everything. I'm going to tell you that there's a finite amount of money and everything we do means we can't do some other things. But what we can try to work there. And so I appreciate y'all coming. I appreciate everyone that's here virtually. You all participate. Government doesn't work if you don't work with it. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all very much.
Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing out here? Good. Hi, my name is John Sardui. I work with the Office of Management and Budget. I'm a budget analyst, and I have the pleasure of going over the proposed budget for next year. So all of you, hopefully, when you walked into the meeting today, were handed a presentation that I will try to get to as quickly as possible or go through it as quickly as possible to probably get to the most important part of the meeting, at least how I feel about these meetings, is of course getting out to the public and getting your responses, your comments, any issues you want to bring up. This is the time to bring it up. As the mayor pointed out, we have a lot of county staff on hand. Hopefully we could respond to you today. If we don't, then just know that we'll definitely take down your name, your number, and then get back to you as quickly as possible. With that said, in the presentation, there is a little slide that starts off with how the budget works, and it quickly goes into the budget development process with a timeline of the different things that have happened for this year's budget development. One thing I want to kind of note, this year has been particularly different, particularly at the direction of the mayor. One of the events that we held on early as part of the budget development process is the DO5 survey, and also holding the virtual town hall public meetings that we had back in February. That is something new to the budget development process, getting the input and information from the public early on to those folks that work on the budget. From there, internally, the budget office coordinated with all the departments in the county to basically get the submissions of the budget. There's a review process, a process that goes to vetting from the budget office to the mayor's office, along with all the department directors. All of that accumulated in what we call budget development activities that lasted basically from the month of March to June. Along with that, again, keeping on track with the mayor's direction and the mayor's initiative, we held workshops with the Thrive 305 group. More on that later on the presentation, but again, more public participation, a lot of that input coming in earlier in the process than we've had in previous years. Then kind of a technical point on July 1st, the Office of the Property Appraiser released the assessment of the property taxes or property roll for the county. And that basically gave us at least the biggest funding source in the general fund, the property tax revenues that we're receiving for next year. That led to a proposed submission of a budget. That submission or that proposed budget was submitted to the Board of County Commissioners on July 10th. And then we ended up where the Board of County Commissioners approved, at least tentatively, those millage rates. More on that later in the presentation, but they did that on July 16th. And now today, we're here, again, bringing out the message, bringing out what the budget has, hopefully, again, getting your answers and, or getting your questions and hopefully us providing answers to your questions. Then the last two steps, or the last two bullets on this slide, just to note, probably the most important, or one of the most important pieces, at least from, again, state legislation and requirements, we have to hold 2 public meetings. The first public meeting is going to be on September 14th. It will be held at the Stephen P. Clark Building. That's on 111 Northwest 1st Street. And the meeting starts at 5:01. It is a public meeting where the Board of County Commissioners Kate takes on the proposed budget. And at the end of that meeting, there will be discussion first, primarily coming from the public. After the discussion of the public meeting, there's consideration from the board, and then an approval, at least tentatively, of that budget that was taken on September 14th. Then a couple weeks later, on September 28th, basically the same drill. We have a public meeting starting at 5:01, also at the Stephen P. Clark building. And again, the public is invited to come and provide their comments. And again, the commissioners will take the item up to approve the budget. At the conclusion of that meeting, the county will officially have what is considered the adopted budget for the board. There's a little technicality that the mayor has a 10-day veto, but technically speaking, as of the 28th, we have at least an approved budget from the Board of County Commissioners. And then on October 1st, we start with the new fiscal year, or at least the county's fiscal year. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning of the slide, there was this new initiative that the mayor launched, the Thrive 305 initiative. The Thrive 305 was a partnership that the county had with the Thrive 305. That is a bunch of philanthropical groups, such as the Miami Foundation, the Ford Foundation, the Knight Foundation, and the Milton Foundation, just to name a few. Part of the Thrive 305 was to get community input to be included. There was a survey sent out. That survey had over 26,400 completed surveys. There was a week-long engagement with the public in these civic meetings. Again, input was taken in from the public, and that's the goal or the mission of the Thrive 305 petition. Next slide, please. Alongside, like I said, the Thrive 305 initiative, we also held at the budget office these virtual public meetings at the tail end of February. We had over 750 folks attend these Zoom meetings, kind of similar to this setup here, except not the actual public meeting. So we just had them all on Zoom. We got a lot of feedback from these sessions. The top feedback, of course, was housing, transportation and mobility, arts and cultural, public safety, so on and so forth. So all of these, again, this input from the public coming into the budget development process was taken into consideration. Next slide. On this next slide, we have the proposed budget. The proposed budget is over $9 billion, or just over $9 billion, and it's composed of two separate pies. The first pile or the green shaded in the presentation, that's the capital budget. Now the capital budget basically reflects the investments and projects that the county has identified that need to be completed over a multi-year process. These are basically infrastructure improvements that are done countywide, and they're centered around different departments. You know, some examples of this would be like the airport, adding a new terminal or improving their terminal. Could go down to the police department, maybe putting in more vehicles, so on and so forth. These are assets that the county actually develops and creates as part of the budget development or as part of the proposed budget. Alongside the $3.3 billion capital budget, we have the operating budget, which is at $5.6 billion, or just about there. This is probably the one that most folks are more familiar with, or at least interact more when it comes to county services. These are the actual services that the county delivers to the public. And that includes basic, police response, having a park and the playground and the attendance there, goes all the way to the water and sewer department, making sure that the water comes out to your houses safe and clean, and of course, then disposing the wastewater going into their plants. So these are actual hard services or active services that are provided to the community. Along with in this operating budget, we do another kind of breakup or another pie that divides those funds, starting with the tax supported. which is at $2.8 billion. That's basically all the services that are funded through the taxes that the county generates, going from property taxes, like I said, probably being the biggest one. That's for the countywide, the UMSA, which is the unincorporated service municipal area, and then also includes the library district and also includes the fire district as well. On the other side of the pie chart, you see two other slices. The bigger of the two is called the proprietary. That's $2.4 billion. And those are basically the fees and charges that the county charges for actual activities that the user is paying for. And a prime example of that is probably the water and sewer fees. These are, you're paying for water being delivered to your house and wastewater being taken out. So you're paying by the gallon for that services. Another good one that comes up is like the building permits. If you're a homeowner and you want to do some renovation or build a new house, whatever you want, you have to go to the building department, regulatory and economic resource department, and basically pull a permit for the services of the inspection and the plan review of your plans. And then the last piece is this $360 million piece called grant supported. And that reflects basically primarily the monies that we receive from the federal government and the state government to support, again, those county services that we deliver on a daily basis to our residents and community as well. Next slide. The proposed tax rates. As I mentioned to you guys on July 16th of this year, the board approved the tentative tax rates. As part of the mayor's proposed budget, the tax rates were set flat, meaning the rates are at the same level as they were last year. The only tax rate that changed or was adjusted was the countywide debt service, and that's to pay off for some debts that the county has taken on. Part of that $3.2 billion capital project, that pays for some of those debts in that capital project. Next slide, please. Here's your dollar of work. This is a kind of this is a slide that we created to kind of give the community, the users, the taxpayers, an idea of where their dollars are going, that are going into that $5 billion operating budget that we see. And it's breaking up into what we call our strategic area. Basically, our public safety is our police, fire rescue, correction services. And we have our neighborhood and infrastructure, which is our water and sewer, our regulatory economic resource department. Then we have transportation and mobility. Large part of that is, or the only thing that basically in there is the transit department. Then we have health and society, which is the homeless trust, for example, the community action agency and human services. That's another big component of the health and then you have economic development and then policy formulations and general government to round up the rest of the strategic area. Okay, next slide. So what's in the budget? Next slide, okay. Basically, when we started off with the proposed budget, one of the things we wanted to do as part of that budget is we wanted to prioritize the protections of life and livelihood to help rebuild the county, especially from the effects of COVID. And speaking of COVID, the next line, utilizing Federal CARES Act and American Rescue Plan. This budget does have a contribution or it does contemplate using a lot of the CARES Act and American Rescue Plan to address the impacts of COVID, not only to the individuals, but also businesses and local government. Then another part of the proposed budget, a big part of it is a peace and prosperity plan brought forward by the mayor. Basically, the peace and prosperity plan has been put together to help tackle a lot of the issues or the root causes that plague our community in the gun violence. So that's the peace and prosperity plan. And then last, when we put together the budget, we took on these points, what we call the 4 E's. Again, helped out by the mayor here. It basically, the 4 E's are equity, economy, environment, and engagement. So there's more of that on the next slide. So like I said, the 4 E's are kind of the pillars that we use as we put the budget together. Starting off with, give me a second here. Sorry about that. Starting off with equity, when we put the objective here on equity was we wanted to ensure that the residents and members of our workforce are included in all aspects of life in the county, regardless of who they are, especially when it comes to delivery services. So as we look through the budget, one of the pillars that we looked at when we looked at equity was to make sure that those things were addressed in the budget. The next one is engagement. And when we talk about engagement, we want to emphasize the involvement of the community and getting ongoing input from them. And it centers on trying to get trust in the government and have access to timely data and information for the services that they're getting provided. So that is engagement. The economy, when we talk about economy, again, helping support the recovery of the economy as we come out of the COVID pandemic, providing and creating investment for jobs and trying to recruit local talent. And we also want to spur innovation and investments in jobs that will be critical for the future. Finally, the last piece of these 4 pillars is the environment. And it's just basically, we want to make sure we foster and properly manage and build the natural environments, make sure that they are able to be resilient to climate stressors, such as climate change and the rising sea level. So that's the 4 E's in a nutshell. Next slide, okay. So after we got the high level pillars and we kind of put the budget on top, we laid out our budget priorities. Next slide, please. Those budget priorities included making sure that these key programs, such as protecting the public safety, reinvigorating our economy, sorry about that, invest our workforce, protect the environment, enhancing neighborhood infrastructure, promoting a healthier Miami-Dade County, and expanding government accountability. So along with that, with those priorities set up for us to kind of make sure we include in the budget, we kind of, the next few slides are kind of highlighting some major points in these different priorities that we set in the budget. That includes, when it comes to public safety, the Peace and Prosperity Plan. The Peace and Prosperity Plan, to get a little bit more detail on that, was funded through the FTX revenues for the new naming rights for the former Miami Arena. That also includes, and part of that, like I mentioned before, that plan is to address the underlying causes for gun violence and poverty. There's also an annual strategy that includes to make sure that there's the understanding of the immediate impact to high-risk youth. That's all wrapped up in the Peace and Prosperity Plan, and that's all wrapped up in the budget to make sure that those programs and those initiatives are getting funded and getting delivered to the public. Part of that plan includes the Fit to Lead program, Miami-Dade Public Police Department initiatives with the youth athletic and mentoring initiatives, a summer youth internship program, Safe in the 305 community grants, and the Project Greenlight to add more cameras into the community, into the different areas or key areas. Again, some more highlights on the public safety. We have the Office of Neighborhood and Safety, which is going to be, which is part of the Community Action, Health and Human Service Department. This is an office that's been created to basically deal with and to engage with county departments to craft and deliver innovative solutions and to improve public safety and enhance the lives of our residents. And as part of the police department, there's, again, focusing in on gun violence. 42 additional, this budget includes 42 additional police officers, There is funding for MDVPD intelligence systems and also strategic and innovation and high technology crimes unit. Next slide, please. Again, staying on the public safety or commitment or the budget's commitment to public safety. We have some physical or capital investments in the budget, which includes deploying 3 new rescue units and the spade-in additional trap, neuter, and release resources for the animal service department. Next slide, please. Okay, now moving out from the public safety, we are now moving into reinvigorating our economy, which starts with investing in small businesses. We have a bunch of initiatives in the budget to address small businesses and make sure that they thrive, especially after the post-pandemic world we're going into. And then along with that, the mayor, one of her major initiatives is to bring in the Office of Equity and Inclusion into her office, and it's an arm within her office. And their goal, their performance is increasing equitable small business contracting, supporting startups and scaling up businesses, and creating the physical and virtual workspaces to enable these learning hubs for small businesses. Next slide, please. Continuing along with the reinvigorating of the economy, we have over $1 million of new economic development for initiatives such as the Global Enterprise Network, the FIU Apprenticeship Program, and the South Dade Economic Development Council. And we also have new economy for blue and green jobs. Again, more funding going out for different initiatives under that. And a significant investment has also been planned out for the conversion from septic to sewer, which right now is funding at $1.3 million. Then we also have early childhood learning and development. There is a proposal to add $3 million to enhance preschool education, primarily through the Head Start program in the Community Action and Health Human Services Department. And then we also have the operations of what we call the Westchester Cultural Arts Center. Next slide, please. As part of reinvigorating our economy, the airport has a bunch of infrastructure improvements. And if we're talking about an economy in Miami-Dade County, the airport is probably one of our biggest engines that brings in, not only the tourists, but brings in trade from all over Latin America and North America. That's important to that basically generates the jobs that they're not counting. There's definitely a lot of private workers out there being and private businesses relying on the business of the airport. Next slide, please. Investing in the seaport. Alongside the airport, we have the seaport. Again, another big driver in our economy. They have the what they call post-Panamax cranes. A lot of the shipping, a lot of the cargo that gets delivered around the world goes through the Panama Canal, comes to Miami-Dade. We're one of the stops for that trade to come in. We're either loading or unloading those cargoes. And again, just like the airport brings in all this business, the seaport brings in business that echo throughout the economy of Miami-Dade County. Next slide, please. Investing in our workforce. That's the next kind of big budget priority we have in the budget. One of it centers on affordable housing. $260 million of total funding has been identified in the budget that's going to go for affordable housing. It goes to everything. It goes to rental assistance demonstration, which is called RAD programs. And then there's also affordable housing and RFPs for preferences near public transit, parks, and recreational facilities. Next slide, please. Along with investing in our workforce, we also put money into expanding the public transit system to make sure that the workers get to their places of businesses. Part of that is the SMART plan, which has 6 rapid corridors. Those corridors are being planned out and being fleshed out every year. That's in the budget as well. $200 million. Probably one of the centerpieces that's ongoing right now is a $200 million capital investment to upgrading the South Bay Transit Lane. Next slide, please. Okay, sticking with investing in our workforce, we have different transportation options that are being worked at. One of them is the redesigning of the bus network, better known as the Better Bus Network. Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. And then we have $53 million of ongoing replacement of vehicles. Next slide, please. Again, investing in our workforce, welcoming new residents. One of the enhancements in this budget is the creation of a new office called the Citizen Support Program. This office, their job is to help those folks who have been in the country for a while obtain their citizenship. So these workers will help make referral and help these folks get acquainted with the citizenship process. Another thing that we're doing with our new residents or those folks that are immigrants, we're providing support to what's called the temporary protected status by doing an outreach program. That's coming in the budget. Next slide, please. Moving on from our workforce, now we're going into our environment. And again, hitting all our pillars, environment, here it is, protecting our environment. Expanding the tree canopy, the proposed budget has money to add new tree canopy into the community. Next slide, please. Part of protecting the environment, of course, we got the Biscayne Bay, a very important and integral part of our natural environment here. There's funding throughout the budget for Biscayne Bay and the beaches. Part of the beaches is $4 million in seaweed collection. And then as part of the budget for the Biscayne Bay, we have the fish kills that have been occurring, and as well as a flood mitigation plan. Again, part of that pillar of environment. Next slide, please. Then we have the resilience projects. Again, like tying back to the $3.2 billion that we have in the budget. The budget has laid out different projects throughout different departments to help make sure that our infrastructure and our facilities, our warehouse, whatever you want to call it, that they're prepared for any stressors that come from climate change. We have a library resiliency project that, to be one of them. We have the climate action strategy. We have the Resilient 305 strategy and the weatherization program. The weatherization program is housed within the community action and human service departments to help those folks in lower income receive funding to pay or subsidize the payment of energy bills. Next slide, please. Enhancing neighborhood infrastructure. It's part of the pillars. A priority that came out was enhancing neighborhood infrastructure. We're trying to make sure that our streets and our parks have enough funding for improvements. That includes the Zero Vision Safety Program project that's in the Department of Transportation and Public Works, and also the underlying corridor are two examples of these investments that we're doing into our neighborhood infrastructure. Next slide, please. Promoting a healthier Miami-Dade. One of the things that, as we know, in this COVID era, making sure everyone is getting vaccinated, making sure everyone's getting tested. This budget promotes a lot of that, funds a lot of programs out of it to make sure that that happens. Just to note that this county has achieved over 85% vaccination rate, which is the highest in the state and the best in the state. Next slide, please. Promoting a healthier Miami-Dade. Along with that, we have taking the heat officer and a lot of the problems that are exacerbated by climate change. We have a heat officer who's being funded out of this budget to help address those issues, to help strategize how to take care of those problems. And then we have healthier families and youth. Again, a commitment to the Fit to Lead program is an example of that. Next slide, please. Again, hitting on the pillars and then how it translates to priorities. We have engagement. Part of the engagement is expanding government accountability. And that's one of the priorities in the budget. We improve the county's response. We have a leadership program called No Wrong Door. Along with that, we have appointed a director of constituent services. We've also launched the 305 program that I mentioned earlier on in the presentation. Again, getting public participation, getting people to get connected with how this government is running the policies in the budget in the county. Then we have a new CRM program. Again, a solution from our 311 center. Again, making sure that we get the call and directing them to the proper department and getting again the services and those things that our members of our community need. Next slide, please. Expanding government accountability, resources for residents. So these are things that, again, we added in the budget or continuing our budget, such as Know Your Rights. We're increasing the access for those folks with disability through our ADA program and ADA improvements. And then we have a mandatory countywide diversity refresher e-learning course that's going to be rolled out to our county employees. Next slide, please. Now, this slide here is kind of things that the budget office and the mayor are contemplating that currently we are not in the budget, but we're considering perhaps as proposals to be considered in that first budget hearing, maybe perhaps the second budget hearing. Starting off with a housing advocate for tenants and landlords to deal with and help prevent evictions. Then we have also more building and code enforcement inspectors coming in to, again, making sure that our code is up online and making sure that everything's being inspected and the code is being enforced. Additional ADA improvements, and then more funding for community-based organizations. That's another thing on the radar. The last piece of this presentation, or not the last piece, but second to last, is the recommended fee adjustments. The fee adjustments that are being proposed in the budget, probably the biggest one that impacts the most of our residents is the water and sewer fee, and that is being proposed to be increased by 3.6% across the board for all cities. Then we also have special taxing districts. Special taxing district for those folks who live in a community that has decided to tax itself for improvements such as lighting, security guard, landscaping. That's what special taxing districts are. The county manages through the Parks Department a bunch of these districts. And depending on how the cost of some of the services that provide go up, they get passed along to those folks that live within that community and those districts. Then we have in the solid waste department a proposed fee increase to the disposal based on a CPI. That increase is 5%. And then kind of our potpourri of different things that we're doing in the budget. So we don't, so we just kind of cover them real quick. There are proposed fee increases in aviation, the RER Consumer Advocacy Group, library, fire rescue, and seaport. All of these departments have proposed some sort of changes or adjustments to their fees. All of this presentation that I just went over with you all is going to be online. Additionally, online is the 3 volumes, over 1,000 pages of wonderful budget material and narratives that you could all go to our website and peruse at your convenience. That's at miamidade.gov/budget. Again, that is miamidade.gov/budget. You'll find these information and these documents available for you to review. Next slide. All right, so I've gotten to the end. I want to thank everyone for being patient and listening to my little presentation here. Hopefully I didn't butcher it. Just want to, again, thank you guys, and I get to the most important part of this presentation, which is the question and answer session. So what we'll do is we have folks on Zoom, and those folks on Zoom, I will ask you guys to use the raise your hand tool or button to let us know whether you want to be called on. And then for those folks here in the audience that have any comments, questions, concerns, please feel free to come up to the microphones are not working, but you could talk and we'll, again, hopefully answer your questions here. If not, we will definitely get with you later on. So anyone in the audience wants to come up and have a discussion, have a question?
If I could just add something, thank you very much. You did a great job. Let's give them a round. The items that were mentioned as under consideration are a little more than under consideration. Okay, just to say, those are things that I'm planning to include in the so-called change memo. So David Codfelter, our budget director, is working on that. And this is also an opportunity to hear from you, your ideas. So I just wanted to make that small contribution. So you want to go ahead and field the questions? I'll just, I'll pop up when I resist. Oh, welcome, Representative Parliament. You're a twofer. You get special prize if you get 2 budget workshops.
I came because, Opalaka gave a high. Anybody in from Opalaka?
I'm sorry, if I could have you state your name and your address for the record.
Former Rep. Roy Hardeman, 655 Northwest 48th Street.
Thank you.
I'm a nosy neighbor.
All right.
So looking at my neighbors in Opalaka and, and keep going back over past tense where, it's a decree to do infrastructure in Dade County, and we're on the deadline. I want to make sure that in this budget, Opalaka infrastructure is reflected, because Caroline Road, behind the police station off of Alabama, all over Opalaka, it's like a third world country going through Opalaka. And I really would like to see some progress done, even by the end of December. We need to do something for Opalaka. And, I just hats off to the mayor that's trying to do something here. And please, count Opalaka in, don't count them out. We're not going to lose Opalaka. Opalaka is the state. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to alternate between in-house audience and Zoom.
This gentleman has a question.
Okay, so we will call Ronald Fulton from Zoom. If you can please unmute yourself, state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, and that's
Hello, can you hear me?
doctor comes in to answer the.
Hello? Hello?
Hello, Ronald.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
I got a couple of things. I wanted to know, I did see some things about the ADA, but is there anything specifically in the budget that target folks like myself with disabilities? And is there anything in the budget for the North Quarter that needs to be in the budget to get the North Quarter down to the South End? My next question, go back.
So
I wanted to ask the mayor, could it be some pilot program to help? I wanted to see those broadband, the infrastructure for broadband, and the panels, the solar panels, come down there like a pilot program that would help the folks that can't afford it. If it's a pilot program, they do this stuff and put it together, a pilot program to that kind of sort. Would that be something that we can basically look at and try to get, put it in the budget so that we do know it's coming and we kind of have a heads up on it. And I can't see. Years ago, many hurricanes ago, a lot of the funding was diverted for infrastructure down south to rebuild the state-of-the-art infrastructure down south. It never did come back to the north end. And I wanted to see if, and that's another question. Is it too late to get it done in the budget for this time? Which should have been my first question.
So I heard a few, several different comments there or questions. I thought I heard a question on the North Corridor, infrastructure down south, and a solar panel program. There are, regarding solar panels, there are several grants that we're actually, the RER department and the Office of Resilience is, along with OMB, we're looking into several grants that may give us the opportunity to expand solar countywide, not only for us, but with the federal programs the federal funding that we receive to residents. Also, if it was, I don't know if it was the South Corridor or the North Corridor, but regarding South Corridor, if it's the South Corridor is funded in this year's budget, the continuation. The board approved that for past, was it last year? 2 years, 2 years ago. So that continues. The construction and expansion of the South Corridor is in the proposed budget. And I also heard a comment or question about infrastructure in the South. Depending on what infrastructure you're referring to, there are some neighborhood improvements, which is road servicing, sidewalks, etc. But there are also infrastructure such as the transit corridor I just mentioned, and there's also water and sewer projects down south. And I hope I answered all your questions. You had a bad connection, so we weren't able to clearly hear all your comments.
Okay. Next member.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Benjamin Isen. My address is 4715 Northwest 157th Street, Miami-Dade, Florida. Good evening. So I think I can try to clarify one of the questions that Ron asked about the North Corridor. I think he was referring to the North Corridor that runs on 27th Avenue, and he wants to know whether there's funding. Because in the budget here shows that we have 200 million capital funding to upgrade the South Dade transit way. But is there any money for North Corridor? I think that's what he was referring to.
So the North Corridor, what's funded in the SMART plan next year is design and engineering for the North Corridor. In next year's budget.
And along with that, because some of the disparities we see, every year we come and we listen to the budget, but some neighborhoods have infrastructure, other neighborhoods don't have infrastructure. And that is why we see the disparities in the development and the poverty rate in the county, time after time, year after year. It's the same, we have a big budget that's going to address issues, but we still lack this infrastructure. A good example is, again, the 27th Avenue corridor. There's no sewer system in that corridor. So you can see that there's no improvement, there's no good restaurants, because people cannot develop the area. So this is a continual problem, and when there is no work in your area, and no transportation, like the North Corridor we're talking about here, what we have is poverty and crime. And this is the legacy of the undeveloped neighborhood. Is there any money in the plan to provide sewer, water and sewer system on the North, on 27th Avenue and other major corridors in the Black neighborhood around the county?
Do you have any answers specifically about this?
Basically what I was going to add to that, Mayor, is what the design and engineering does, there's a process. There's a federal process, whether it's small starts or new starts or whatever what category it fits in. But what basically the design and engineering services does, it, number one, sets the start or the phase one, so to speak, of the process. Ultimately get funded by the feds, because getting federal funding, yes, by the federal government. Getting federal funding is an integral part of this process and getting the project completed. Because we can't, to build the corridor on our own, it's going to be quite a hefty price tag, and with the operations and maintenance with all corridors. For assistance from the feds, it does go a long way. So that's what we're trying to do. Follow a process to get federal funding. That first part of the process is in the budget.
Yeah, okay. I wanted to speak more generally to the concern that certain areas get less investment than others, right? I think that's at the essence of the question. And definitely, that's part of why I have an Office of Equity. That's a part of why we are creating positions to look at neighborhood revitalization. So I'm aware, I've spent a career working in disinvested neighborhoods and recognize the realities of that. And, sometimes a city comes and a city is created to put more resources into the local. So if it's unincorporated, that might be, one scenario. If it's in a city, it might have to do with the city's tax base. So there's, a lot of different factors. But for sure, we know that these things are like a cycle, that if neighborhoods are disinvested, then you're not going to have as many jobs, as many businesses, you're going to have more crime, etc. So, I'm committed to undoing that. And this year's budget, we invest in neighborhood revitalization and equity to try to move us forward. So just want to. Yeah.
It's not a question, but it's not a.
You don't have to.
Oh, I
You should just stand up and talk loud.
authorized. Okay, it's not a question, but it's along your line.
I'm sorry, if you could start with your name and address as well.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If you could start with your name and address as well, please.
Bernice Belcher Miller, 1830 Northwest 188 Terrace, Miami Gardens. My concern is along your line here, and that is is there any need or any thoughts given to the budget to perhaps establish somewhere like the government center so that we will have all services in this area, based on those without transportation, senior citizens, etc.
Thank you for that. Don't we have the North Bay Government Center coming up?
Yes, there is a project for the North Bay Government Center in the proposed budget. They're at the beginning stages if I'm correct, to finish design and basically the scope of the project, but it is funded, that portion's funded in next year's budget.
Next year. Is there a location yet?
Yeah, it's the landmark property. 43rd and 190. Yeah, I can give you more information if I get your
So
comment.
Alex, would you introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm the Director of Internal Services Department, which does construction and procurement and real estate and other stuff, so we're working on that project. Yeah,
And that was an initiative of the former Commissioner Barbara Jordan. He was really hard to make that happen.
Yeah, so part of that property, there's other things planned for the property, but part of it is a government center.
Thank you.
So exactly what you just said, co-locate the services and have one more contact for the north.
Yes.
Yes.
Next on Zoom, we have Terry Rutherford. If you can state your name and address for the record, you have 2 minutes. Terry Rutherford. We will come back to Terry. Next on Zoom, we have Salalem Adrafis. If you could please state your name and address for the record, you have 2 minutes to speak.
Hi, everyone. If you can hear me, I'm Zalalam Adefris. I live at 1236 Drexel Avenue in Miami Beach. So sorry I couldn't be in Miami Gardens tonight, but I appreciate you having the Zoom option. I've been coming to these budget workshops for years now. And I just wanted to express my appreciation for the staff, particularly, and for the mayor and the commissioners, of course, but particularly for the gentleman that did the presentation. And for David, who I believe is the director in February, just the, just the amount of like detail and attention and time you spend explaining these things, which I know are complicated topics, it just really helps, I think, for a resident like me to better understand, our government system and participate. So I just want to express my gratitude. And in addition to the budget, it's great to see. I'm like a total nerd, so I actually like go through the appendix and calculate the percent increase in funding for different departments in the general fund. And it's great to see such a huge increase for resilience, for social services, because I'm personally very passionate about those things. And of course, in the coming years, and I'm sure to whatever extent in this budget as well, we can continue to invest heavily in the services and the transit and everything, housing, everything everyone's mentioning here. So anyways, not a question, just a statement. Just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Salalam.
Next.
Excuse me for saying so, but Salalam Adefris with Catalyst Miami, that's my former nonprofit that I started. I'm very proud. Thank you.
Next.
Good evening, good afternoon, everyone here. Catherine Beltras Passley, 21051 San Simeon Way, District 1 resident. So I first would like to say thank you for hosting this. I and a lot of community members, many of us who are also like on the Zoom and watching via television, are very grateful for the engagement with the community. I definitely want to advocate, especially since we're talking about public safety, for free phone calls for our family members with people who are incarcerated. If we want to lower recidivism, if we want to have smooth re-entry, having that option for families is an immense impact for all of the residents here in Miami-Dade County. I'm also very grateful to see that there is on the radar a tenant advocate, and we're excited to see more of that engagement with community-based organizations, faith-based organizations. I'm really proud of that. I'm so excited to be in this space.
Thank you so much. If I could say also, we are proposing to pay for the video calls for visitors to the jail for family members. So that is something that we've been working on, and you'll see in the change memo proposed to the commission. And actually, Daniel Jr. is our director of the corrections department. If you want to say a word about that, Director. You better keep it on. I'm sorry, Director.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Dan Jr., Director of the Miami-Dade Corrections Department. Like the mayor and her vision, definitely we want to try to minimize the impact that incarcerated persons have on their families. It's already a traumatic situation, by breaking up their families, breaking up their homes. So we want to be able to kind of keep that family tie close and connected. One of the things we did, we pursued the video visitation about a year before COVID happened, because we recognized actually we were having problems with contraband. But when COVID happened, it was perfect because we were able to turn on that system and we couldn't allow the family members to come in. So that way we've been offering free video calls, free phone calls all throughout the pandemic. And naturally, when the mayor took office, her vision was to continue that forward. And I want to thank her and her vision, and also OMB for being able to find the funding to be able to do this. And we also want to be recommending doing away with the daily fees that the inmates pay as well, because that also has an impact. Because when the family members deposit monies into the account, the county takes half of it the same day you deposit it. And that creates problems in the facility. They bother, they store it and so forth. And we want to kind of keep that. And the money is, what's important is keeping them safe, keeping the families connected. And we can always make up the difference on what we receive from that. So we're gonna be proposing a recommendation to do away with those fees as well.
As far as the housing advocate, that is also in the change memo. As well, we right now have an evictions liaison working with our public housing and community development for the ERAP program, the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. So we've been extremely aggressive. We're doing the best in the state, one of the best in the country at getting that money out. Other places have really had a hard time getting that money out, but we started from the beginning partnering with community organizations that have assisted us to reach out to households. I am prepared to call any landlord that does not want that money, as well as Congresswoman Wilson has volunteered to personally call any landlord that is having resistance to taking that money and to prevent evictions. That's our plan.
Next on Zoom, we have Glenn Coughold. Glenn Coughold, please state your name and address for the record. You have 2 minutes to speak.
Good evening, I'm Glenn Coughold, 18 Northwest 107th Street in Miami Shores. I want to add my appreciation to everyone at the county who prepared this budget, and also for you, Mayor Levine Cava, for your leadership. I'm here tonight as the co-chair of the Board of Directors of Philanthropy Miami. We're a 25-year-old organization that serves as the conveners and curators of Miami's nonprofit sector. There were very good concepts talked about in the budget presentation: equity, economy, environment, engagement, peace, and prosperity. It is our nonprofit community that partners with county and local governments and with the business community to address so many of these issues. The larger nonprofits in our community receive a lot of attention and resources, but there are hundreds and hundreds of smaller groups that work on a host of issues, including housing, food security, economic mobility, healthcare, youth development, arts and culture. As an organization, we're committed to the individuals working in those organizations to find a home in Philanthropy Miami, a place where they can receive the training, the knowledge, the insights they need to be the very best they can be. What I'd like to advocate for, as you're considering other things for the budget, is a nonprofit center for the convening of these nonprofit organizations. We really dream of a physical space where the community can come together for events, for classes, for meetings, programs that we host, programs that other nonprofits host, and a space where nonprofits can use for their own meetings. Essentially, we're looking for a place where the nonprofit community can call home. So as you look at other additions to the budget, I would strongly encourage you to consider this idea. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you.
Place for nonprofits.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Glenn, thank you so much, and also for the work that you're doing to support nonprofits. And completely agree with you. We do have the Center for Community Change that does house some, but I think there is such a demand. We have so many nonprofits coming to us asking for space, which we really don't have. And you're reminding me, you know, I believe that good ideas never die. They just sometimes take a while. I actually spent a long time back in the day trying to create a shared nonprofit facility, and something that I think is very worthy and we should look at. We certainly cannot do it in this year's budget, but we can look at it for the future and work together to get grants to try to do it. So let's talk.
Anyone else in the audience?
And I will just add, we do have a staff person in my office, part of the Office of Management and Budget as well, Michelle Williams, who is specifically there to assist nonprofits. So we need to make sure that if you have a nonprofit and you need support, and you can talk to Jason Smith. Jason, why don't you introduce yourself and the work of the Office of Engagement and Equity and Inclusion.
Yes, my name is Jason Smith. I'm the Director of the Office of Equity and Inclusion in the Division of Innovation and Performance in the Mayor's Office. So as you saw earlier, equity is all about making sure that all of our residents, no matter where they live or who they are, have an opportunity to fully participate in our economy, our society, and our politics in Miami-Dade County. So I've been working both within the administration to advocate for equitable policies and budget items, as well as working in the community regarding lifting up this conversation around equity. And our chief, I guess, accomplishment, this office was created during a pandemic, was the launching of an equitable vaccine distribution plan. We hit the ground running with a massive roundtable where 162 people participated to source good ideas of how we can get that vaccine into communities that have often been overlooked and underserved. And I believe, and the mayor included all of those recommendations in her overall vaccine distribution plan. And I believe that thoughtful approach to public policy is why we were able to hit 80% of our vaccine uptake in our community. 85% now, we're still on the upswing. So it's that type of thoughtful approach to how we spend money. You see it reflected in this budget, how we reach our community. That's what equity is all about, and that's what I'm here for. My colleague here, George Demian De La Paz, he's our data guru. He's also in the Division of Innovation and Performance, so look forward to working with all of that.
And if you do need help with your nonprofit, please.
Yes. I have a card for you. You need to write that down.
Ma'am, in the back.
Hello. My name is Teresa Cata, 1343 West 72nd Street, Hialeah. I know you plan the budget, and obviously you do it as best as you can, and we all appreciate the great job that you're all doing, city employees, county, our police officers, and our fire department, and many others. And thank you so much for your service. There's some things that are brought up. Obviously, water and sewer is going to go up, but you think only 3.68%, but that's 3.68 now. Mine went up a couple years ago. I'm paying more money for water and sewer than I used to a couple years ago. So now to keep on going up and keep on going up, and I understand everything is going up for whatever reasons. Now, the thing about changing septic to sewer in Monroe County, I have a friend who has a house in the Keys. They made him change his system from septic to sewer. He had to pay for it. I don't think I should pay for it. Let the homeowner pay for it. If he can't pay for it all at once, then do some kind of payment plan. That's an idea. The other thing is, I know about whoever's idea about climate change. Everybody has a different idea, the heat, everything else. But we do have a department. I don't understand, maybe it's being repeated, it's being redundant. There is DERM. DERM is the Department for Environmental, Regulation. It's a protective agency that protects the environment. So I see that they try and propose with their infrastructure something about making another agency to do the same thing or similar thing that DERM does. And we all know DERM has several departments in several cities. And if you work for the county and for the cities, downtown has a huge DERM department. So my thing is, how many times are we going to pay for the same thing? Because it's getting, every year, they're going to up our taxes more. They're going to up more of our services. Now, it's great that we help people. We all help people. This is the thing. So $260 million for affordable housing. Now, that's, I don't know if that, you're helping homeowners. So are you helping people that you're building an apartment building and you're renting it at a lower cost, and that's perfectly fine. But now I'm a homeowner. I own 3 properties. I'm not rich. I go to work every day. I do what I have to do, okay, to pay my rent, pay all my bills. Now, those people that are getting low income, or not even low income, anybody who rents an apartment, the water and sewer, that increase goes to the landlord. And even if it's low income housing, which belongs to the government, who's paying taxes on that property? We are. power because the government doesn't work. The government is a corporation, basically. The money that the government uses is our income, is what we pay in taxes. So I'm gonna get my, who knows how many times I'm gonna get my taxes increased, my sewer, my water and sewer, my, I don't know, whatever else that we have. But yet the people that are rented, the people that are low income, don't pay taxes on property because there's some people that are never going to buy a home because they don't want to. They don't have to deal with the upkeep, and that's perfectly fine. My idea is, or proposal, is why do we have to keep on paying for everything because we own a home? We're being punished because we were able at some point to buy a property. However we did it, how many jobs we had to work to get it. What I'm thinking is maybe tax on sales goods because everybody has to buy capris, everybody buys sneakers, shoes, purses, suits. Everybody has to buy clothing, everybody has to buy a car. So maybe up the sales tax. If it's 7, put it to 8. But we shouldn't have to pay for an increase on our property, on our water and sewer, on our solid waste, or because what's going to happen is then any time that the government needs money to supplement anything that they messed up or it costs more because inflation, then we have to pay for it. The people that are lucky enough to have a home, but it gets to a point where you can't pay for your insurance and you can't pay for taxes because it's too expensive to maintain. And I know this because my mom is retired, and if on what she gets, she could never afford to live in a townhouse that's been paid for 20 years. So all I'm suggesting is some other way for this to get paid without having to come into our pockets, because it's always going to be our pockets. Let everybody take the hit. Charge everybody because everybody has to buy a car. Everybody has to buy groceries. Everybody has to buy stuff. Put a 1% sales tax on everybody, on incoming immigrants, on incoming residents from everywhere. But don't like the homeowners, because homeowners still, it's landlords and people who work really hard to, and I'm not saying I'm all for helping people, but let everybody help and chip in and put some money into that pot, not just the homeowners.
If I may, thank you so much for all those suggestions. And I know that Catalyst Miami might still be on, and I know that they do training around issues having to do with different tax systems. And just to start with that, Florida is one of the few states in the country that doesn't have a personal income tax and relies on property taxes, which is basically as you described it, it disproportionately falls on homeowners, really. The sales tax is set by the state, and they give us a portion of it. So we do get part of that, but it goes really to the state. So I do want to emphasize that we do pay sales tax. A part of it does come back locally, but the main thing that supports our programming is the property tax. You also mentioned something that we are doing at the beginning of the
Water and sewer rates you mentioned.
Which one?
Mosby rates, water and sewer rates.
Well, you could reference that. And there was something else at the way beginning. She said I was going to respond.
Septic to sewer.
Oh yeah, septic to sewer. Thank you. So, the septic systems are right now putting our natural environment, our bay at risk. Because as the water table rises, they're overflowing into our fresh water. They're killing the bay, they're killing the fish, hurting our economy. So that's why we have to make the change. But we are creating ways for people that cannot afford that conversion, like you say, very expensive. So we are putting in grant proposals to the state and to the federal government to bring down the cost, to subsidize, and find ways to help people to be able to pay that is more affordable, because we know that that is a big burden, and it is of public interest for all of us that it be done. So we need to do that. Did you want to speak to water and sewer rates?
Regarding water and sewer rates, yes, they are slightly increasing, and there is a representative from the department, but I'll give an overall explanation. 2 years ago, the federal government basically put what's called, it's a mandate, but it's called a consent decree for us to address certain things in our system, certain pipes, the wastewater and water treatment plants. So to do this, and the water and sewer rates are in the top and the low. The point is, we do have the lowest rates in our portion of the country. So we're at a point where we really need to address issues, infrastructure issues, and the feds are making sure we do so. So that's really the reason why the rates are increasing. And I mean, that's the primary reason. Septic and sewer, the mayor touched base on that. The customers themselves, our water and sewer customers, are not paying for septic and sewer directly for other customers. In other words, the mayor mentioned we're trying to use the federal money that we receive to match state funds to get these projects completed, because really that's our option, and we're trying to take advantage of that. But we've been trying to figure out how we're going to accomplish these projects for many years, and it is an issue, septic tanks. You also mentioned affordable housing. That 260 million is a mix of different funding. The funding that the federal government give us for affordable housing, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund that the county has, and you also mentioned solid waste rates, which I think the last time the solid waste rate was increased was 10 years ago. So they are evaluating. The comment in the budget is they're going to come next year to the board to explain or start the process and explain what the rate really should be. We will try, because there was a big shift because of COVID. Everyone basically started working from home, and the residential collection budget, we didn't budget for that. So the collections on the residential side was much more, the demand was much more than what was budgeted. So we're going to try to mitigate that with federal funding that we receive that's allowable. It's called revenue replacement. So we're trying to address everything that we receive to address COVID pandemic things that are happening to our county with the funds we receive for that exact reason. Mitigate expenditures to the home.
So next on Zoom, we have Diana Pacin de Góngora. Diana Pacin de Góngora, if you could state your name and address for the record, you have 2 minutes.
Hello, good evening. My name is Diana Pacin de Góngora, and I'm at 9030 Southwest, 56 Terrace in Miami. And I want to thank you all for your work done and for the opportunity to allow me to participate in this tonight. My question or comment has to do with the environment, climate change. I would say Biscayne Bay, and all of this is put together by single-use plastic use and waste. And I understand that the county has a guide, a green guide, that prioritizes the purchase of environmentally responsible products and services. Now, it has some exceptions, and one of them is that if the price premium differential for a regular polluting item or service is 10% of the green environmental one, then it cannot, it's not purchased. So my question is, if in this budget there has been allocation towards the purchase of such products, meaning the environmentally responsible products, if the budget for that has been increased to allow for the purchase of most of all such products when they're available and identified, and not have the price be so much a constraint. Because one of the things that we have to think when we buy single-use plastics or foam and we use it for a moment and then we throw it out, and I'm talking about county property, county offices and all that, that has, you know, it doesn't stop there, the cost through the life cycle of this item, because it goes to, you know, to the waste, to the landfill, or is incinerated, or it goes to our beautiful Biscayne Bay and pollutes the bay, rather than something that would be compostable or reusable that will not do that damage and harm to the environment and to our city and actually to ourselves, to our health also. Thank you.
Thank you. So I guess I can't really point to one particular product per se, but we do have an Office of Resiliency, as you may know, which is involved very much so in the procurement, our contract development. They have a lot of feedback into what we're buying and how we're buying it. So does the Office of the Mayor. So, I mean, we could probably follow up with some details.
Okay, I have some thoughts. So as well, I'm revising our procurement rules in the county to make sure that what we procure is environmentally sound. And we often get requests to consider new products. So I'm going to let Alex Munoz, our director who handles procurement, to speak to that. But just before you do, I forgot to answer your other question about DERM. So the Department of Environmental Regulation and Management, DERM, is within Miami-Dade County. So any office of DERM is Miami-Dade County office. The county is responsible for environmental protection for the entire county. So there really isn't any duplication. It's just DERM doing its job. And I don't know who's here from, anybody here from RER? You are. So maybe you could explain that after as well. Okay, please go ahead.
Yes, hi, it's on the record this way. So yes, Alex Munoz, the director, again, Internal Services, which oversees purchasing, construction, real estate, and other responsibilities. So on the environmental purchasing, I don't know that so much it's built into the budget as the answer to the question, as it's something that we consider on every project that it applies to on a case-by-case basis. So those assumptions and that's allowed for. We would look for price, of course, when considering that as well. So as we go project by project, department by department, in addition, the mayor just highlighted that that's something that she's ensuring is being done across the county. We want to make sure that it's being done consistently and applied consistently, which is something that we pointed out. In some cases may not have been. It's something that she wants us to correct. So yes, that's something that we will continue to do. And we are cognizant of your concern that it could raise the price on products. So that's something we would look at on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you.
Can we have the answer to the DERM question? I'm sorry. If you want to stand up and address it.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
So your question was, did you say something about DERM tweets?
My friend sent me a tweet that you were going to open up another department about environmental something or other. I have to go to my phone and find it. That's what I'm saying. It's redundant. So you have DERM.
Oh, I see.
You're covering pretty much.
I see. Okay, I'll answer that. So no, I'm not opening up any departments.
Okay.
But for example, the Office of Equity, even though we already have an office that focuses on small business, because the Office of Equity becomes really an advocacy arm. Why do we have an Office of Neighborhood Safety, even though we have a police department? Because we need someone to focus on making sure that communities get what they need so that people don't go into crime. Also helping people re-enter. So our corrections department works with people in jail. We want to be sure that we help people when they get out of jail to be able to stay out of trouble. So that's a part of the kinds of things that we're doing. But we're not creating an environmental office. So if you have any information, either share with me, we'll talk about it. Okay.
Ma'am?
Hi, my name is Stephanie Russell, Senior Pastor of Our Father's House of Prayer, 3974 Northwest, 67th Street. Also a community encouraging organizer in Faith and Florida. I want to say thank you, Dr. Kava. Mayor Kava, I had the pleasure of supervising one of the 305, Drive 305 sites. So Faith and Florida could not go around to the doors, but we created a space where we phoned them. And I want to say how great it was to connect the community with the county. They were very, very thrilled to know that there was that much care, that we were phone banking and asking that many questions. However, they thought the questions were too lengthy, but they were relevant and they were excited. I'm excited because half of those questions are being addressed in the budget, and so that's a great thing. One other thing that I want to address, and I also hope that 305, Drive 305 continues, because it's a great connection with communities and times. I hope that that continues. On the budget, on your key budget priorities, I'm wondering, are the list here, is this prioritized, or this is just the issues that you all are prioritizing? And then one major concern for us, for me personally, is do we have room or capacity to add more for students that may need boarding school, that may not be have done any crime to go to Utah, or the alternative schools. But is there any room for more sites for boarding schools? I think that we have kind of pretty much closed a lot of them down. And so that's a concern. Thank you.
So the budget priorities, those are the highlights. They're not necessarily, bullets are not necessarily prioritized in order. Those are the key highlights. The other question regarding.
I'll answer that. Okay. So we do have a Department of Juvenile Services. And of course, we know that young people who are starting to get in trouble can really benefit from all kinds of programs, and we don't have enough of them. Actually, we're here with our director of the Office of Juvenile Services, Ms. Kathy Virgo. So Kathy, if you would, and maybe you could reference it to lead and peace and prosperity too.
Absolutely. Good evening, Kathy Burgos. As Madam Mayor mentioned, I'm the Director of Juvenile Services. You bring up a really interesting point, because it's truly about addressing the needs of children. And the mayor has really focused on the preventive measures that we take to ensure that children don't go into the system. So when we talk about different placements, I can tell you that we have a partnership with the school system where we're planning on putting prevention workers within the schools in the high crime areas. So it's truly about preventing children from committing crime. Then when we start connecting it to the mayor's peace and prosperity, I am excited, and trust me, I've been a social worker now since 1991, right? And this is the first time that I see a mayor that really steps up and helps children, not only that are at risk, but giving children second chances. Through the peace and prosperity, we were able to employ children during the summer. These weren't kids that many people love to pick, right? Because the research is going to be favorable. No, these were kids that have had, that have made mistakes. And she gave them the ability to have jobs. And we're talking about jobs not only in parks, in construction, and juvenile services. So that's the type of initiative that we have in place. In addition to Quick to Lead, we also have, which we have a Miami-Dade Police Department here. We have programs that really turn children around. One of the things that we're working on heavily is really improving the relationship with young people and law enforcement. We don't want them to wait until they have contact with law enforcement, right? So it's about bettering that relationship and providing the services. But the bottom line is that children don't commit crime by accident. It is our goal, and you'll see it in the Peace and Prosperity, that it takes a comprehensive approach. It takes working with mom, right? Connecting her to a job. It takes working with the younger child, connecting them to tutoring. So it's truly a comprehensive approach to addressing at-risk behavior.
Next on Zoom, we have Baritha Howard. Baritha Howard, please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. Mayor Danielle Living Cava, commissioners and staff. Thank you for taking this time to hear our voice. I believe that there's a housing crisis. When tenants go to find resources and services that should have been available to them, they are not given a clear set of directions on how and what to do and organizations that can help them. We at the Miami Workers Center want to have a one-stop office of the tenant advocacy where they can come and have advocates from their community assist them. We also plan on knocking on doors and meeting them where they are and providing specialized training to the community advocates, provide workshops and trainings on legal aid, budgeting, credit repair, advocacy, etc. But to do this right, we need to reach the greatest amount of people who are affected the most, and that is single mothers with children and everybody who's experiencing this crisis. We ask that you include the Miami Workers Center as much as possible in the planning implementation. And also, I do agree that there are some things that are being duplicated. There are a lot of organizations that's providing and overlapping, trying to help tenants. And we propose that we can have a partnership with them so that we can make sure that the tenant is getting the best services possible among us without duplication, and that they would have a place to go to and know that they will receive the services and resources that's available to them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
We want Jason or George or both and representative.
Thank you, Baritha, for your comments. Baritha is a very successful housing advocate. She's actually part of the Community Scholars for the Affordable Housing Program at the University of Miami, which I used to oversee. My name is George David Talapaz. We've been working very closely with Miami Workers Center on the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, and that's partly why it's been a huge success. It's because we've been taking a lot of effort to work closely with community-based organizations like Miami Workers Center, Miami Homes for All, the Schimberg Center, Legal Services of Greater Miami, Community Justice Project, a slew. We so far have launched $50 million since July to provide emergency rental relief, which is pretty unprecedented. And you mentioned the tenant advocate that is going to be included going forward.
And also that the Tenants Bill of Rights, which Miami Workers Center put together with some other groups, I believe is going to be legislation sponsored by Commissioner Monesteem and Commissioner Regalado. So these things are moving forward. Okay, I don't know, he's calling the people. I read it to him.
We have 8 more people on Zoom.
8?
Yeah.
Roy, just give me a second. Does anyone else in the audience want to have a question? So we have 2 repeaters. What do we get? Let's try to take care of the Zoom folks, and then I'll give you, Roy, and the gentleman with the hat in the back opportunity to repeat or provide another question. Go.
So next on Zoom, we have William Quinlan. William Quinlan, please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Terrific. My name is William Quinlan. My mailing address is 2064 Prairie Avenue, Miami Beach, 33139. First, thank you so much for this event. I want to echo everyone else's previous comments. It's super great to have Zoom engagement, and for just, the really inclusive process that this has been so far. I want to also echo a couple of points of commendation and support for some of the budget items that I've seen. Everything that I've looked through, the county's support in operations for social services, for a lot of the relief and recovery efforts that's moved forward this year really looks fantastic. I'm particularly thrilled that the Peace and Prosperity Plan has been moving forward. I think it's such a great program. I have a couple of meta questions, I guess brief and related, about infrastructure, which is to say capital planning, right? One of which is how the budget might get updated and changed as we see federal efforts in the infrastructure programs that are coming through get themselves worked out. I suspect that those might get enacted into law one way or the other by October or so. But like, for example, the weatherization budget, the county has maintained its numbers from previous years, but the federal grants have come down, and the bipartisan infrastructure bill has a big chunk of money for weatherization. Like, what's the updating process going to look like? And then the second question, if things pass. And then the second question is, there are obviously some capital and infrastructure points in the budget that I don't necessarily like. We've got $15 million for safety and for Vision Zero in the road designs, which is wonderful. But we also have like $35 to $40 million for arterial roads and for road widenings, which sort of cuts against that. Is that coming out of the long range transportation plan? Where are the ways in which we can sort of lean on and try to change the long-term capital plan? Is that the long-term transportation planning process?
You want to answer the check?
Thank you. So you hit on a couple points. The infrastructure, we received first and foremost a bill that was passed. We received an allocation from the American Rescue Plan, which primarily we're going to be so gratefully accepting and basically covering any budget shortfalls that we would have otherwise had next year. But there is an infrastructure piece to that. The mayor took a draft, basically a draft plan of the American Rescue Plan on how she's proposing to spend after meeting with the commissioners and having several discussions. There is a piece there for infrastructure that's approximately $100 million, which will require us to basically develop programs for that funding. And simultaneously, you mentioned, and you are correct, there's quite a few grants that are in the process that we are eligible for. So grants under the Office of Management and Budget is doing their best to coordinate countywide the application of all these grants, including weatherization. And we will leave no stone unturned. So that's basically where we are with the grants.
Yeah, and I'll just say on weatherization that we are again putting some money in the budget to help more families to make those adjustments to their homes, and it will be part of our American Rescue Plan dollars as well. So you want to keep them.
Next on Zoom, we have Sebastian Caicedo. Sebastian Caicedo, please state your name and address for the record.
Sebastian Caicedo, 1700 Northeast, 105th Street, Miami Shores, Florida, 33138. And good evening. Thank you for doing this. Really appreciate it. I'm calling also on behalf of Florida Rising. We are a community organization here in Florida, and I want to recognize and acknowledge and thank the mayor for her leadership handling COVID in our county. And also just to have a couple questions, maybe one comment. I mean, my first question is, would you commit to adding $500,000 to existing Miami budget proposal for the creation of the permanent office of the tenant advocate? I think there was something mentioned about that, but I just want to make sure. And this was brought up at the Miami Worker Center, and we're in support of this. And my second question is, especially with the current situation with housing and evictions, and with the ending of the moratorium currently, will the county dedicate more staff to be able to process the rental assistance program applications at a faster rate to distribute the funds currently? Thank you so much.
So the position of a housing advocate as part of the proposal is already going to be in the change memo, and exactly all the other things that are requested are going to be subject of legislation. So look forward to that. As far as the emergency rental assistance, we've been very aggressive. We've spent the vast majority of the dollars, which makes us eligible for more federal funds. And we're going to draw those down. We're going to keep offering assistance. We are working with a coalition of nonprofit organizations that are helping us to reach out to the individuals to make sure, because sometimes it's hard to find them. We're tracking those landlords, like I said before, and twisting their arms if they don't want to take the money, because we really don't want anyone to be evicted. So anyone who's eligible for those funds, we're being very aggressive. And we're also working with our social services and our homeless assistance for housing relocation for anyone that does need to be relocated. Is there anyone here from Pasty? Oh, I'm so sorry. Do you want to say anything more about that?
No, I don't think it's okay when we left it. I mean, obviously the capacity could be grown and funding was.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, great.
Next on Zoom, we have Kristen Bloom. Kristen Bloom, please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Kristen Bloom, 1825 Ponce de Leon Boulevard, number 145, Coral Gables, Florida, 33134. I'm here as the Executive Director of Refugee Assistance Alliance, and we specifically help refugees who come to our area from Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. And so I'm so happy to see so much in the budget included about equity. But we're, of course, anticipating anticipating a lot of refugees coming in the coming years, especially with the Afghan crisis, so prominent in the news cycle right now, and just wondering what kind of assistance there is for organizations like ours who will be helping refugees access services. I know you said that the Office of Equity is about helping all residents in the community access services, but for the clients that we serve, there are a lot of barriers to access because they don't speak Spanish or Haitian Creole or English. And so it's just very, very difficult to find services for them. So we provide a lot of services and help access services, but of course it takes funding for us to help them help themselves. Thank you.
Thank you.
So there is an office in Cosby next year. You mentioned about
immigration.
Yes, about immigration. And there is an enhancement next year that the mayor is proposing to do exactly what you were referring to and helping the immigrants. And what was the other thing that was mentioned? The tenant advocate was already mentioned.
Yeah.
And I did issue a letter affirming our interest in supporting people who have to relocate. We're here to help.
Okay.
Next on Zoom, we have Amy Mcclellan. Amy Mcclellan, please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, everybody. This is Amy Mcclellan at 501 Northeast 96th Street in Miami Shores. And first, I'd like to thank Mayor Levine Cava and your wonderful staff for this meeting, and also for the additional outreach that you've done to the community in creating the budget. And I'm really glad to see that your budget is addressing some really important needs that have been neglected in the past. I remember from the Thrive 305 resident survey results that there was an expressed need for additional mental health services in the county. And so I'm just wondering if the county plans to invest in any new behavioral health initiatives. And if so, are they reflected in the budget? Thank you.
Well, thank you, Amy, for the question. And of course, we know you're so active in this area, Key Clubhouse and others. We are working on a mental health initiative. As far as exact dollars for services, would you like to address that? Sonia Grice is our director of our Community Action and Human Services Department. Okay, you want to?
There's also,
she's our new director.
As mentioned before, the American Rescue Plan that was taken to the board, that the board has reviewed, there is a category under the social equity portion of it, social impact, an allocation for mental health that's being proposed. So I wanted to mention that. We didn't really specify, it's kind of like a subcategory.
Okay, so we definitely know that we are in desperate need. Did you want to say something, Sue? You don't have to. Okay. I also want to mention today is the National Day of Grief Awareness. And I put out a message about that. We know that we've been going through an incredibly difficult time in the world and in this county. So many things that have happened that are so difficult, and people really need the support. And actually our Chief of Public Safety, J.B. Patterson, if you don't mind just standing up, is over police and fire, and he's helping us to organize our countywide mental health efforts as well. Kathy, you want to say something?
Yes, I would also like to share an investment that the county is making when it comes to mental health services. Through our department, Juvenile Services, we have the Group Violence Initiative. And we're currently working as a partnership with Jackson Memorial Hospital, where we will have licensed clinical social workers as well as MSWs addressing the needs of shooting victims. So when a victim comes to Jackson, both north and south, there will be a mental health professional addressing the needs of that family and connecting them to services. So that's one of the mental health.
And actually Judge Steve Leifman, who's the leader in mental health services in the justice system, has a new facility that is opening up, which will be run by the county. And we're working on services there. So there are a number of things that are happening, but not enough. And I know we have to get through, it's already 8 o'clock, so.
Next on Zoom, we have Norma Uriostegui. Norma Uriostegui, please state your name and address for the record.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Norma Uriostegui. I live at 12071 Southwest 1st Street, Miami, Florida, 3184. And I just wanted to take the time, take the space to extend a lot of appreciation to you, Madam Mayor, to your office for considering our voices and that of our members, and for including an Office of the Tenant Advocate within your budget. Our tenant members are very excited to collaborate with you, and we cannot wait to see this vision through. We're really counting on you all to provide this office with adequate staff, with funding, and shifting capacity to meet the increasing need. We really look forward to working with you along with our membership of those most impacted by our current housing crisis, which tend to be single mothers and Black and brown women. So thank you so much for listening to our voices, for listening to those most impacted. We really appreciate it. And we're really looking forward to it.
Thank you.
I wasn't clear on what office, but she did
about the tenants and housing, the tenants, yeah.
So I guess there's been several questions related to housing, and as mentioned, the housing advocate is listed, but there are obviously other housing programs, the ERAP that the housing is administering right now.
Well, we have to build more housing.
Oh, affordable housing.
We have to protect the people in their housing, and we have to build more housing. And we have some money, but not enough. So we'll keep fighting. And please, if you have any influence in Washington, make sure they pass the infrastructure bill so we have more money that we can put into housing.
Next on Zoom, we have Rachel Silverstein. Rachel Silverstein, please state your name and address for the record. Rachel?
She's our water keeper. She makes sure that our water is safe and clean. Thank you.
I am here. I'm so sorry. Just trying to get the kids to bed also, multitasking. So thank you for the Zoom option to allow me to be able to do that. I'm so impressed with how many people have turned out for these listening sessions, and so grateful to you, Mayor, for being so present and responding to everybody who is speaking, and to the staff who is here, answering all of these questions so diligently. And this is just such a wonderful process, and couldn't be more proud to live in Miami right now and just to see all of these wonderful changes underway. So thank you all for that. Want to lend my support to the mayor's budget. There are lots of wonderful things in there, and particularly, of course, clean water priorities. Top of the list is septic to sewer conversion for sure. I think the mayor really eloquently summarized some of the issues with septic tanks in Miami-Dade County in an era of sea level rise. So that's a priority for us that we want to partner with the county on. Of course, fixing our leaky fixing our leaky sewage system is another big one, as well as making our county more resilient to sea level rise and storm surge, of which we are absolutely thrilled and want to thank you here publicly for stopping the plan to build walls all over Miami-Dade County to make us more resilient and to switch to a nature-based feature solution in our Back Bay study with the Army Corps of Engineers. We look forward to working with you on that, and hope that future design work can be funded in this budget as well. So thank you again for your leadership. Thank you for everybody who came out. I learned a lot listening to everybody, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for including me.
Thank you. Thank you, Rachel.
Next on Zoom, we have Mary Reeves. Mary Reeves, please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Mary Reeves. Community advocate, early childhood. I would like to thank the mayor for her heartfelt initiatives and leadership. It's a breath of fresh air. I won't take much time. I would like to encourage a thorough look at the CBO's funding to ensure that we are receiving quality and innovative programs for our children. I was very elated to hear that $3 million was allocated favorably for early childhood programming. I believe that a healthy and positive start early reduces the social ills down the road. I look forward to being a part of this process. And again, thank you, Mayor, your staff. You did a great job. Kudos. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I just want to say, this is the woman I referred to earlier. This is Michelle Johnson. Thank you. And she's our liaison to nonprofits and to support nonprofits. And we are looking at the CBO funding. It's been many years and continued, and we hope to have a new look at it this year. Right, David? Yes. That falls in his office. So
Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Reeves, for calling in.
Next on Zoom, we have Orlando Gonzalez. Orlando Gonzalez, please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Wonderful. So my name is Orlando Gonzalez. I live at 180 Northeast 29th Street, Miami, Florida, 33137. And I also want to extend my thanks to the mayor for her efforts and for her leadership. It really feel and echo the sentiment that it's a breath of fresh air. Also, I want to give a special thanks to the county staff. I know that all of us have been spread thin and everyone's doing their very best. And I really just appreciate the level of engagement. 10 years ago, there was a report that Miami-Dade County residents were not engaged in their community. But of course, when the mayor calls and says, get involved, we are all responding. And so really combating that effort and that idea that we are not engaged and responsive. I'm the executive director of SAVE, Safeguarding American Values for Everyone, and our mission is to promote, protect, and defend the LGBTQ community here in South Florida. So I just want to touch upon 3 areas, mostly within the mayor's equity and economy initiatives in her ease. And so the first one is related to a need for funding to conduct an LGBTQ gap analysis and needs assessment, something to the tune of $300,000 to $500,000. And while that might not be in the budget this year, what I would ask then is, I think that the Thrive 305 survey was really wonderful. And already we've learned a lot about our community, some of its needs, and some really top level stuff. But if there's an opportunity again to do another survey, even if it's broad and generalized, that there be more questions that could hone in on the needs of the LGBTQ community, that would be wonderful. In particular, I think that we need to be able to ascertain the needs of the LGBTQ youth, the transgender and non-binary community, the people that are living with HIV, and also seniors in our community. Some of the issues that we deal with in those populations are homelessness, health equity, disparities, safe schools, family acceptance, senior services, and so much more. So that's the first one that I wanted to touch on. But the other thing is, with regard to data and a need for this kind of a survey, is last year the county commission created the LGBTQ advisory board. And the best use of that advisory board's time is if they are making decisions and recommendations that are data driven and not just based on sort of special interest of individual groups and organizations, but really that they're looking at data and information that's measured at the local level. I'm going to piggyback on a couple of comments that have already been made regarding the CBO funding, and also on the comments that were made earlier by Glenn Poppold regarding funding for nonprofit organizations. So my ask in this particular arena is not for really more money, but really if there can be an allocation that's dedicated to the LGBTQ community. And I don't mean funding that goes just to LGBTQ nonprofits, but really to go to other mainstream organizations to also support the LGBTQ community. One of the things that I would like to offer as a recommendation is that it has been reported that 14% of Miami-Dade County youth are and identify as LGBTQ. So with that kind of a statistic in a population, I would say consider allocating 10 to 14% of that CBO funding so that it is dedicated to this population and the needs of that community. The last thing that I'll say, it's not really a question, it's a comment, and that is just I want to congratulate and really appreciate so much of what was done around community IDs. Community IDs are going to help to support and ensure safety in our community more than anything, and having not only achieved this through the Board of County Commissioners as an item to be able to take on, but actually funding it to the tune of $200,000 is remarkable, and I really appreciate it. I'll take my comments now offline, and thank you everyone for the time and opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you. I do want to say that as far as the LGBTQ issues, that is squarely also within our Office of Equity. And I'd like you to follow up with Jason and talk about the ideas for the survey and see how we can proceed. Thanks, Orlando.
Next on Zoom, we have Sandra Dennis. Sandra Dennis, please state your name and address for the record.
Hello, good evening. My name is Sandra Dennis. Address is 745 Northwest 54th Street. I just want to shout out, I'm the executive director of Miami Workers Center. This is night and day compared to what has happened in terms of community involvement. And I want to say a big thank you to the mayor and the entire staff. Job well done. And we hope to continue, and we know we will, to work with you all in a participatory process such as this. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your leadership.
Next on Zoom, we have Ben Conray.
Hi, how are you? My name is Bernadette Conry. My address is 912 Magnolia Road, Southampton, New Jersey, 08088. I'm from Beyond the Bars, Miami, and I wanted to just say thank you to the commitment that the mayor has made and Dan Jr. in making sure that families stay connected to inmates. And I appreciate the Zoom so that I was able to watch and participate. And as a side note, I just wanted to say to the mayor, you were absolutely fantastic through the Surfside tragedy. I was amazed at how wonderful you did. And I just wanted you to know that people from other states acknowledge what you do. And thank you. That's all. Have a great night.
For your kind words, and you know, our first responders, our police and fire who are represented here today. If you could stand up, please, police and fire. Thank you so much.
We're done with Zoom, okay. Roy?
You get the last word, so you're done.
All I want to say is that, you know, everybody attests that the mayor is doing an excellent job in her job. Thank you. The thing I'm seeing, right, when we talk about these organizations, we have an organization called OTEC, Overall Tenant Council Association, which Miami-Dade County is responsible for giving them the technical assistance to serve the residents of public housing. Zero help that they're getting, and these young ladies work for free. And in the budget, we're gonna give somebody some money to help them do what? So if we can get people like Penny that work for public housing, that's supposed to go and knock on these doors and make sure the roaster's not running around in the house, make sure these people are getting up, going to work, going to find a job, doing something. We give those people over $100,000 a year. It's only like 3 of them. Penny, I forget the other 2 young men names, but it's a it's a problem. When I look at this happen, I go over today. I go over the Little River off of off of 81st Street and 5th Avenue. Behind the runoff, you can go right past the runoff and look in the gate. Piles of trash is deteriorating on site. And they say, well, when the people come by, they'll pick it up. Sister, this stuff been out there for months. Your residents looking at that, and you finding them for everything. Nobody knocking on the door to go look at the mold that's in the house. And there's plenty of mold in all these public houses. Well, we tearing them down, but it shouldn't have got that way from the beginning. We don't have the staff to go out there and start fixing these units by the people living in them now. All these units closed down in our neighborhood, and you say it's a housing crisis? You got over 1,000 units closed. That's a lot of families displaced in Liberty City. But I sit and I listen to all this stuff. It's good stuff, real good. But it ain't including the people that it was targeted for in the public housing. When I'm talking about this fit to play, you destroyed our sports development program, the good life cycle. Where in each one of our parks, we got 7 parks in Liberty City. 7. Where in them 7 parks, we had 2 bands that went and we was competition to the different neighborhoods. We stayed on the football field. We stayed playing chess, checkers, the whole thing. Now it's no people at the park. We privatized the parks. So now we don't have no participation. Now we got all our kids out here, you talking about mental health. I meant to help mine at 59, mine was the belt. That was the mental health that got me straight and kept me straight. I'm not saying we don't have no true cases of mental health, but I'm talking about the vast of what's going on in my community that we as adults ain't taking charge. And that's what we're looking to do, take charge of what's going on in our neighborhood while we still got a neighborhood. Right now, Liberty City is almost gone for black folks. Because you shut it down, then you saying, oh, we got a housing crisis. Well, I can't tell. So, man, I'm just saying, this 50 place stuff, we got to do something about it because all our parts are empty. All the parts are empty. I'm not talking about have a custodian or Jody and saying that that's the person that's going to teach you how to play football. That's going to teach you how to play chess. Now, the education part, we got the schools right next door. That's what the good life cycle was. We took the kids from the school to the park, back to the school if they needed extra curriculum or some help. You cut that totally out. 50 pay for what? Eating carrots, took the soda machines out and putting carrots and stuff in the park. I don't want no carrot, I want a soda, a Pepsi. So all I'm saying, man, some of these stuff is like the young lady would say, they're being redundant, they're overturned. That tenant council, CAA, we got a new director, and I think she's fabulous. So in her outreach, we got 16 advisory boards across Dade County, and they don't have a quorum. So how you passing all this $32 million a year through the process when nobody voting on it?
Thank you. It's good to end with something to do. And direction to our new director, Sonia Grice. And for sure, you know, it's about participation. And Representative Hardiman and I agree on the importance of participation. OTAP, which we, you know, that's in the Public Housing Government Office, but they work together with Cosby on those neighborhood assemblies and the input, and it's something that I really want us to tackle this year so that we can continue changing this community to be non-participatory to participatory. So can we say amen to that? Amen. All right. I think it's 8:15. It's time to go home. Amen. So let's, you have one more?
I wanted to make a comment and a suggestion. Because it seems the septic to sewer situation in Miami-Dade County, I don't know who's in charge, but if you go across the county line to Broward County, it's been consolidated. The county and the cities are handling it very well. They have a timetable. They have finished a major chunk of the county. And I think the way it's done is that there's some money put somewhere, maybe in Wassa, and those people who need these things, they cannot pay for it. But you can make them pay on a monthly basis.
Correct. Absolutely. And by the way, you know, we haven't cut off anybody's water during this pandemic. Miami-Dade County has not terminated anybody's water service during this pandemic. Say we are working on different, we have done studies. We know exactly what we need to do. We know what's coming first, second, and third. We put in proposals to the state to get money. We're very hopeful that will help us bring down the price. And yes, we will work with people to be on a payment plan, right?
Yes.
Right, Mr. Director? Is it water and sewer?
Yes.
Oh, excuse me. Yes, of course. She is our CFO for water and sewer. So she is the woman who handles the money. So please, would you like to speak?
Yes, and we do offer payment plans for the connection charges that goes to the homeowners for septic and sewer plans, and they can be up to 5 years. And we're looking, depending on how much it is, to carry it out even further to make it more affordable or at least more equitable for the homeowner to be able to pay those bills in addition to their water and sewer charges that they have. So that's the septic to connection. But I think you had a question earlier about the rate increase that's going to happen with the water and sewer bill. I wanted to ask a question because I come to these every year, and usually in Miami Gardens, a lot of your bills come from North Miami Beach, and I get a lot of questions about that. And there's nothing really we can do about that because that's North Miami Beach. However, with a water and sewer bill, if that's what you're getting, the tenants, our residents that are renting, they pay their own water bill. So that's not coming from your taxes, just so you're aware of that.
The sewer is part of the taxes, because I used to have a house in Miami-Dade. So the sewer is included in the taxes. What I was talking about was depending on how much water you waste. I live in Hialeah, but I had a house in Miami-Dade. And so whatever you waste in water, they charge you with sewer. And I'm paying more money in the past couple of years, and they already raised it. And why are you raising it? I mean, you're not transporting water. It's not like gas prices.
Maybe could I suggest maybe that you take a little time after the meeting?
Yes.
Just, we have lots of people here from the county, our chief financial officer, Ed Marquez, he's in charge of all the money here. Okay, so. Very good. All right, thank you so much. Thank you.